bipartisan group trying to come to an agreement. Congressman, thanks very much for taking the time this morning.
Jim, good morning. Thank you.
So you heard Nancy Pelosi's comment there that another shutdown would be too hot to handle for Republicans. Is it? Would it be too hot to handle for you?
Well, Speaker Pelosi fortunately has changed her tune and her tone. A few days ago, she was just saying no money for this and no money for that, and that we weren't going to get there. Fortunately, she has finally decided to let the people in the room, myself, members of the Senate, come together and work our magic. We're appropriators, we're problem solvers, we're reasonable people, and the committee is making progress. Are we there yet? No, but are we making progress yet? And here's the other good news. If we can come to an agreement, she and the Senate will be able to put something on the floor for all members to vote on. I think that's very important. So I'm optimistic.
Let me ask you this, because of course it comes down to the barrier and money for the barrier. Have Republicans in that committee, have they set a red line on a figure for wall funding? As you know, $1.3 billion was the offer going in prior to the last shutdown. What is your bottom line?
Well, that's a flexible situation. Our starting point, obviously, is $5.7 billion. You threw out a figure for the Democrats. I still don't know what the Democratic figure is. They've flagellated a little bit in terms of where they are, and it's just a rather interesting situation. But I will say this, somewhere in betwixt and between, perhaps there's an issue, but there are some more important issues on there.
So that sounds like just, and I don't mean to interrupt, it's just because, as you know, the dollar figure is really the political football here. Sure. Sounds like you're saying there is wiggle room below the $5.7 billion that the president requested, and let's be frank, that the president was willing to shut down the government for. Are you saying that Republicans are willing to go below that figure?
I think most Republicans in the room are very reasonable people, and we don't want to let a situation where if we can get close or get a fair deal right now, that we can start or continue actually funding the wall. I was just to the border. We are actually building the wall. I want the American people to know that. I've been in Texas, I've been in California, and I've looked. We are actually constructing the wall. So would I like to see $5.7 billion now? Yes, but we have another appropriation cycle right around the corner once we get past this. So this can be a great continued down payment on the wall. So I don't want to get bogged down on one particular number if it means shutting down the government. We want to keep the government open.
That's interesting, because the language there, a down payment, could signal that a smaller amount of money might be acceptable, and then kind of as a first step. But I'm curious, have you gotten any guidance from the White House as to what the president will accept? Because, of course, that has also been something of a football here, because he has moved the goalpost. Has the White House given you an indication that they're flexible on $5.7 billion?
As of yet, no, and I credit the White House and the President. He has let us do our job. And I also credit Leader McCarthy. He has also let Republican negotiators in the House do our job. There has not been any pressure. We've had flexibility. We've been able to get in there and work toward an agreement, and I think that's very important. So I give high marks to everyone for saying, let the appropriators in the room get an agreement and then take it to the floor and see if we can pass both houses.
Are Republicans willing to give Democrats something in return for coming up on the $1.3 billion figure? You know, Washington compromise is about horse trading here. There had been discussion of permanent protection for DACA. Of course, the president offered temporary protection. That did not satisfy Democrats, and it was kind of made moot by the Supreme Court's decision on that. Are Republicans offering something back to Democrats?
Well, the Homeland bill is a very large appropriation bill, and I would say yes. There's a tremendous amount of common ground. Let's face it, the Coast Guard is funded. We have Republicans and Democrats who both support and should support the Coast Guard. So there's flexibility in a lot of areas. One area where I really think is very dangerous is Democrats have tried to reduce the amount of ICE detention beds, and that's as big of a sticking point, I think, for a lot of Republicans as funding for the wall. If the Democrats were to succeed, and I don't think they will, in getting a lower number of beds at a time that there's a large influx of people, that will also be a non-starter. So my view is there flexibility on both sides? Absolutely. Am I going to be flexible? Sure, I will, because I want to come up with an agreement. Obviously, I'd like it to look as much as I would want it to be, but I'm a conservative Republican, and I realize everyone in that room is not. Everyone in the country is not.
Yep.
So let's come together with a comprehensive agreement that the vast majority of people can get behind.
My music to the ears of a lot of